CCR TV, channel of God's love. A warm welcome to all our viewers on this episode of Gõyche, Tarvotti. In this episode, we bring to you a young Goan seafarer from Kavelosi in South Goa, who joined the Merchant Navy as a deck cadet at a very young age in the year 2012 after finishing his 12th standard science in Goa and later on completion of his pre-sea training at Pune. Within a period of just 4 years after finishing his sea time, he obtained the second mate's license and began sailing as the third officer in the year 2016. Thereafter, it has been a climb upwards, and today he holds the rank of a chief officer in the Merchant Navy since the last 4 years. His hobbies are reading, and hence he spends a lot of time reading and learning. We are pleased to welcome Chief Officer Renshaw de Souza to our studios today. Welcome, sir, to our studios.
Thank you for having me, sir. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure with us too, and nice to know about your career in the maritime shipping. So let's know something more about you, so that our viewers can have a closer idea of what shipping is all about, what maritime career is all about. Renshaw, could we begin by you telling us about your background and the choice of maritime shipping as a career option for you? How did it all happen?
Right. So for this, we have to go to the year 2008. 2008, I finished my 10th standard. And till that point, I actually wanted to become a commercial pilot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I did not know back then was that career choices are not so simple, because it's one thing when we are a child and we think, I want to be a pilot. But at that time, the aviation industry was such that expansion was not much from what I got to know. And the cost of becoming a pilot is a lot. And I wasn't sure of getting a job, and so I was left with the other default option of engineering or medicine. But then an uncle of mine who's in this field suggested the Merchant Navy. So I took science, which is needed for this stream, and thereafter, after clearing 12th, I gave the entrance exam for the Merchant Navy, and then once I got in, I've just been following the path. So I never grew up thinking, okay, I want to join the Merchant Navy.
Okay.
But it was, the way the cards fell, so to speak, and I ended up here.
And you said your uncle, put it into you, or rather guided you go for this option. Is it? So he's sailing.
Yes, my uncle, he's still sailing. He's been sailing for a long time.
What's his name?
Captain Norbert Rebello. And I think when I last checked, he's been sailing for 44 years.
Oh my God. That's a long time. Eh?
Yes. And
so now that you are already into it and you're already sailing and at the rank of chief officer, you're happy with what you have chosen for your career?
I'm quite content.
You're happy
with it.
Content.
There are, I think, pros and cons to every choice, to every career. So anybody deciding on their career, you have to pick what you want. You have to pick the good, and along with that good, there'll be some bad points as well, and you have to be okay with those points.
So now, more or less, you said after you passed your 12th, you set out on this, career options.
Right.
Like how many years roughly you have sailed now continuously on the ship, and where are you now at the moment?
So I first got onto a ship in 2012 in November, and this year being 2024, that makes it about 12 years now. Of course, the first few years, the first 4 years were spent as a deck cadet. So for those who don't know, that means I'm basically a trainee. I'm not really
at that level. That's the entry level.
That's the entry level. And it's sort of like how we would use the term intern for land jobs here. You're just paid a small amount, but your purpose there is not to earn. Your purpose is to learn. So we spend our time there learning, because it's a very hands-on job. It's not something you can learn entirely from books. Of course, there are matters that deal where you have to study from the book, But it's like when you go for your driving exam, to simplify things, we learn the road regulations, what each sign says, when should I overtake, when should I not. But there's also the part of actually driving the car, which you can't learn from the book. So it's similar to that. You have to spend time learning on the ship itself. So that took 4 years.
Okay.
After that, I had to go and answer my exams to get a license. Now in the transport industry, whether you're driving a motorcycle or whether you're flying a plane, you need a license for everything.
Absolutely.
Right. So this involves a period of study, and then you give an exam, and this exam is answered by everybody who needs to work on the ship in this capacity, whether you're working as an engineer or a deck officer. Once you answer the exam, then you're licensed for a certain role. So at that point, I got the second mate's license. However, when you're joining, you join as a third officer, although your license is for a second officer.
Okay.
So it's like this. Say I've turned 18 and I've gotten my driving license, but then my father must let me drive the car. So it's similar with shipping companies.
Okay.
You get a second mate's license, but you'll go as a third officer. Then when the company feels you have enough sea time, enough experience, then they'll let you work as a second officer.
So by that time, you build up your own confidence level also. Am I right?
Right.
So to put it.
Yes, absolutely.
And your company management is happy with you. You're happy with your own self.
Right.
That you are at the right point of time where you can handle much bigger responsibilities. Is it something like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because as you go up in rank, the responsibilities increase. The cost of making mistakes goes a lot higher.
And I don't think there's a chance to make mistakes. Am I right?
Mistakes can always happen where there are humans, because you cannot take out the human error. But what we do have are steps and ways to reduce the mistakes. There is a system that we follow.
Okay.
A system of checks
and balances,
checklists, carrying out a risk assessment. So we try to minimize it, but it's to say that we cannot have mistakes is at this point very difficult.
Tell me, Renshaw, how challenging and difficult was it for you, from the level of a deck cadet to reach to this level where you are now as a chief officer? Am I right?
Right. Yes. So I like to tell people when they ask me how shipping is, that shipping is not a complex job. It's rather simple, but it's not easy.
Okay.
So therein lies the difference. It's not rocket science. We are not sending people to the moon. But at the same time, the challenges are different, because first of all, you're away from everybody that you love. I don't think there's anyone who has the benefit of having their loved ones on board for the entire time.
Correct.
There was a time where people used to carry their families, but this is reducing nowadays for various reasons. And even then, it's not for very long. So you're away from everyone. You're working for long periods of time without a break. So in this way, it's challenging. And now to have done it for 12 years, it's not something that is easy. It takes a lot of, it saps a lot of your mental energy. You lose out. You pay for this in terms of missing birthdays. You miss festivities.
Back home.
Okay. Right.
Is it a kind of a painful experience, to think about it while my family is miles and miles away at home, celebrating a family occasion, maybe a feast or a birthday or an anniversary or something like that. How do you feel that time? And you are sailing here the high seas.
It's a very bittersweet feeling when you are at sea and say it's Christmas or something, because you're happy because it's Christmas or it's New Year. But at the same time, you're just like someone in the audience watching everyone else have fun on.
And you can't be on the center stage.
Yeah, you cannot. You cannot even make a cameo appearance.
Yeah.
You're just watching from the side.
So how do you guys, at that moment divert your mind?
Sometimes if the ship is sailing, we try to organize a sort of a small get together, cook up something more, and spend a few hours of recreation together. But that's the best that we can do. We cannot really, decide, we're not going to run the ship today, so everyone's off. Work has to go on. the transport industry runs every day of the year, every hour of the day.
Correct.
Right.
And the world keeps on moving.
Yes, and the world keeps on moving.
The world trade rather.
Right.
Tell us, Renshaw, now that you are holding the rank of first officer, or in other words, chief officer, when do you expect to finish your next exam for the topmost post on a ship, that's of a captain?
Right. So I'm happy to say that I finished it last year.
You finished your master's exam last year?
Yes, sir.
Is it? Oh, I see. So now you are on the waiting list to take over as a captain somewhere very near in the future?
I hope it's very near, and I'm working towards it.
I see. So you finished your master's exam already?
Yes, I have.
Oh, nice to know that. Yeah. Okay, so you are all set then?
Yes, I'm all set.
To move for the upward mobility.
Right. At this point, it's just a matter of gaining experience.
I see.
And waiting for the company to have an opening.
Okay, okay.
And I hope that happens soon.
It happens very soon for you. Okay. Now, since you are presently the chief officer on board the ship, could you tell us what are the primary responsibilities of this post, the person holding this post?
Right. So the chief officer is basically second in charge of the
after
ship.
The captain.
After the captain. So in the absence of the captain, for whatever reason, I would be taking over the ship.
Yes.
And then after that would be cargo work. All the ships, they're carrying cargo. Even in a passenger ship, the passengers are the cargo. If you're carrying oil, the oil is the cargo. And the chief officer is responsible for the safe loading, carriage and unloading of the cargo. Also for the overall maintenance of the ship on the deck side, leaving aside the machinery. That is, a ship is made of metal, and in the presence of seawater, metal starts to rust. So you're always maintaining the ship, painting, because if you don't, it's like the ship will just deteriorate, and we don't want that happening.
So this maintenance of the structure, of the vessel structure, everything is a continuous process in that.
It's always a continuous process. There's no point where we can say, okay, we're done. There's always, you start somewhere, and by the time you have done, it started again. So it's just an ongoing process. It's like how we take a shower every day.
I know.
You cannot take a shower one day and be like, okay, I'm done now.
So next week, forget about it.
Yeah. So it goes on and on.
Renshaw, tell us what type of vessel are you sailing? Is it a container ship, a bulk carrier, or crude oil tanker?
The ships I sail on, they carry crude oil.
Are they a VLCC?
I've worked on my last few vessels have been VLCCs.
So you must be continuously out in the high seas only, without coming to the port as such, isn't it? Most
there
of the
there
time.
are very few ports
with
that can
kind
accommodate
of draft,
vessels of this size.
Deep
so
draft,
most operations are done offshore.
Offshore.
Right. And so the last few years have just been me getting on the ship when I joined. In between, no shore leave, no seeing any of the places we go to, and then the next time I get off the ship is when I've finished my contract and I'm going back home.
You just board. Right. You work next 4 or 5 months, whatever the time contract time is, and then you sign off.
Right.
There is no shore leave.
There is no shore leave.
Okay. So though you are doing multiple ports in multiple countries.
Exactly. Right? And people ask me very often, oh, so you're sailing, you must be getting to see so many places, you're going to so many different places. And I say, no, the ship is going to different places.
Not you.
No, I'm on the ship. I don't leave the ship.
You have your own responsibilities to shoulder while this ship is in the offshore position. No?
Right,
Am I right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, and the operation is on.
And ships, everybody works the most when the ship is loading or unloading, which happens in port or offshore. We are happiest when we are sailing.
Correct. I was coming to that. In fact, do you prefer to be at sea sailing, or is it more stressful to be at a berth where the operations of loading or unloading are in progress? Which is more stressful as a seafarer?
I think everyone would agree that the most stressful time is when we are in port.
Ship is at port.
Because there's always something happening. These places run 24 hours a day, and everybody's working. And it's not just the cargo work. We have to sometimes take food. We have to refuel the ship. We have to land garbage.
The ship stores.
And shipping is such a well-regulated industry that there are inspections happening all the time. Every second port there's somebody coming on board, seeing that we're complying with the relevant shipping rules and regulations. So we are happiest when we are sailing, when we can focus just on the navigation and maintenance.
You're talking about navigation. We would like to know from you, in fact, when the thing of navigation comes, who's actually assisting you in managing the navigation? It is 24/7 job,
Right.
and the safe operation of the ship. How is this whole process of navigation handled by under your guidance? Because as a chief officer, you have to go through all these things yourself.
Right.
So how is this managed?
So usually
The navigation part of it.
Right, sir. So usually we have the navigation conducted by 3 people: the chief officer, second officer, and third officer, and we do this in 3 shifts.
Okay.
2 shifts a day each person. So we do 8 hours a day each person, but in shifts of 4 hours. So in this way, there's always somebody on the bridge. The bridge is the place from where we navigate the ship.
That's the watch keeping.
Yes, that is the bridge watch keeping.
Bridge watch keeping.
Right, and so there is one person in charge of navigation. That's the officer of watch, and the 3 watch keeping officers are the chief officer, second officer, and third officer, and we rotate. And then we also have somebody assisting them, which is a lookout, whose responsibility is to watch for traffic and
on the route.
On the route,
where you're sailing. Yeah.
Right, so this is the bridge team in normal conditions. Of course, there are some times when we are approaching port, departing port, or in a busy route like the Singapore Straits, where the presence of the master is needed on board, or an additional officer.
I see.
So in this way, according to what the situation is, we increase manpower on the bridge to ensure that safety is always adhered to when we are navigating.
This seems to be a very high profile and precise job. What are the risks involved, especially when you are entering a port like Singapore, as you said, where the traffic is huge? It's a hub port, am I right? And
right.
In and out, day and night, 24/7, the movement of incoming and outgoing ships is there.
Right.
So how is this so well managed to the precise point?
It's managed by following the regulations that we have. So when you're approaching Singapore, there is how on land we have traffic police helping out. So over there we have the Singapore VTS, the Vessel Traffic Service, and
traffic management.
Right, they guide vessels. They are watching through the radar, and they have AIS receivers. So they monitor the traffic situation and they guide the ships. So that's from there, and from the ship side, we also follow the standard industry practices. We follow the collision regulations, the applicable routing, so that everybody's on the same page. And if everybody follows the same standard operating procedures, then things go well.
Now this VTMS system, what you just spoke about, is it necessary and compulsory at all the ports, including some minor ports and all?
There is no clear-cut answer to this, because in some places it's compulsory, in some
because
places
this has in fact made
berthing,
unberthing, arrival of the ship up inside the breakwater very, very easy, isn't it, with the VTMS in operation?
It's made it easier because now you have an overview of the whole situation of the whole port, and you have somebody guiding you by giving you extra information. Like if you see a ship coming, the VTS will often tell you, okay, this ship is coming here and they're going to so and so place. So you're better able to make decisions regarding navigation rather than just guessing what that ship might do.
Renshaw, coming back to the advancement in technology, could you tell us how has advanced technology helped you in this challenging task ahead? Especially when it comes to weather warnings, cyclones on the route that you are fixing for your next voyage.
Right.
How helpful does it come?
It's very helpful. In fact, sometimes people ask me, "Oh, I'm sure you must have been caught in a storm," and I say, "No, never," because in this day and age, to have been caught in a storm means many people have made many mistakes.
Okay.
Because we often encounter bad weather, which is one thing. But for a ship to be caught in a storm now, when you have advanced weather prediction and you have instantaneous transmission of information, nearly all ships have internet today, and we get instant weather data, and we can take actions to avoid storms well in advance. We have real-time access to the weather maps, what's happening, data from weather stations. So in that way it's very good. Earlier all this was not there, say 20-30 years ago. You wouldn't have this, and if you receive this information, it would be very delayed, maybe after 12 hours, because this was all done over the radio.
Right.
Transmission times were fixed, but now it's all instant. So in that way, as far as weather prediction goes, it's very good. It's also helped a lot with troubleshooting.
I see.
Because you have instant access to technicians, even though they may be on land. But if you have a problem with the equipment, you send your data, you take pictures, describe it, send it to the company, and you get the response back quickly. So troubleshooting is a lot easier.
And it has helped you in many ways in that case.
Technology has made it a lot easier to troubleshoot.
We'll shift a little from this technical point to, as far as my little knowledge goes, I understand a chief officer is like a stand-in ship doctor. Am I right? You have to double in as a doctor if some medical emergency arises.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So how do you handle medical emergencies on board when you are sailing in the high seas, and there is no immediate access to any land or hospital nearby? Have you faced any kind of such a situation where medical emergency had to be handled?
Right. So we don't have a doctor on the ships. So we are all trained in first aid and medical emergencies.
Basic medical emergencies.
Right.
Am I right?
Right. That is
okay.
That is correct. And the first step in dealing with medical emergencies is not to have one. So we try our best to avoid accidents, especially which involve injuries. And if we do have one, we have some guides that will help us. That are very streamlined. It has a flow chart.
Okay.
Has this happened? If this has happened, do this.
Okay.
So at that point, we don't have to think. It's already there. Just follow the procedures. And of course, we go back to our training. We have all been trained, and we have to do this training every 5 years.
Okay. So there is this upgradation for training every time you this thing.
Yes, absolutely. This is not you study
not
it
a
once.
one-time thing.
No, you have to, because there are new things that keep coming. So it's essential that our knowledge is being refreshed and upgraded. And then we, as I said earlier, we also have like instant access to doctors now. So whenever there's a medical incident, we are always in communication with the team ashore. The doctors are advising us in real time what to do.
I see. Yeah.
So you can have them on video call.
Okay.
So they can have a look. They can check whatever they want through us, and then they advise us what to do.
So you have a kind of a backup support, in such situation. Am I right?
Yes.
In real time.
Right. That is essential. I think without it,
it would have been very difficult.
It would have been difficult.
And challenging also.
Absolutely.
Renshaw, tell me something. In this profession of maritime seafarer, how stressful is it, considering you guys are away from your family? If you are a bachelor, you are away from your parents, your siblings. If you are married, you are away from your spouse, your children, and it is this thing away from land for a number of days, and with minimum social interaction, whether it's with your family or otherwise, except with your crew and officers. How is it? How is the stress situation in this case? Because we all need to interact, we need to socialize.
Right. I think stress levels are always high, and especially if there's an inspection or we're approaching port, it shoots up. Because you have no friends on the ship. Everybody's a colleague.
Correct.
And there are very few people. I think there are maybe just 2 or 3 positions where you'll have somebody of the same rank. So it's either a superior or a junior, and you have to maintain that professional distance. You can't be best
Too pally
friends.
with
Yeah,
them.
you can't be too pally with everyone.
Yes.
And humans are social creatures. We are not meant to live in isolation. We are not meant to live by ourselves, the most of us.
Mhm.
So this does tend to play a role on people's mental health.
I see.
Right. And when this is not there, you often hear stories of like people doing crazy things on board just because they've spent too much time on board.
Okay.
Like during COVID, many people were stuck on the ship because crew change was not possible, and the mental health of many seafarers just went out the window because you're stuck. You don't know when you're going home. You're worried about your family at home. You've not seen your children.
Correct.
So it can get very difficult.
And very stressful.
Yes, absolutely. There's your work-related stress as well. This is with all jobs, but in addition to your work-related stress, you also have the stress of being away from everybody. It keeps lingering at the back of your head,
Mhm.
and there is nothing you can do about it.
Renshaw, now supposing you are somewhere, say your vessel is somewhere in Middle East and you have a next voyage charter already lined up to sail to the west, say America, and now you have a long voyage coming up around the
Right.
Cape of Good Hope. It's nearly about 45 days,
Right.
roughly about 45 days. So how do you prepare mentally for this? And it's a continuous sailing, I think, without
Right.
calling any other port. So how do you mentally prepare yourself? How is it like, to just think about another 45 days, maybe a few more days for the operation, cargo operation,
Right.
and then back again if you are coming?
So
What is the mental status and how do you take this thing in your stride as part of your duty?
right. When we were in school and it's the end of the year and now summer vacation is starting, and you think, oh, there's a long period where we get to relax and have fun.
Yes, yes.
But then at the end of it, you feel like it all passed in an instant.
Okay.
And that's what these long sailings are like. We think, okay, now there's a time, we have this opportunity to take it easy a bit. But then jobs keep coming up. There'll be some breakdown. Oh, then there's bad weather, so we have to divert the ship. And something or the other keeps happening and sapping away at our energy. So by the time you've reached that place, you've realized, oh wow, 42 days have just passed.
Just passed by.
Right. And there's so much stress on maintenance, and with manpower being less and less, we have the same amount of jobs and we have less people doing it, so you're always just working. By the end of the day, you just want to have dinner, speak to your family a bit,
Yeah.
and go to sleep, and you just repeat this for 42 days, and it's all over.
All over. So good. Tell me something. Have you, since you had joined the ship at a very young age, in your teens, have you any time felt homesick at any point of time during this entire career? And how did you overcome that situation?
I think I feel...
See, suddenly you were picked up from land and you were put on board the ship.
Right.
And you knew that you had to sail it out for X number of days or number of months, and then only you'll see your family back home.
Right.
Maybe that time when you joined, the communication system was not that advanced as it is now.
Yeah.
So anytime you felt homesick, and how did you overcome the situation?
I think I feel homesick even today.
Even today you're feeling homesick?
When I joined the ship.
Okay, okay.
So the first few days are a little difficult, where you have just left home and goodbye is always hard.
Goodbye is always hard, of course.
Right.
For whatever reason it may be.
Right. So that lingers in your mind. But then it is like, when I was young, I went to learn swimming, and then there were few kids who were afraid of getting into the pool. And what they would do was they would just push them into the water.
Yes.
So that's what happens. You join the ship and you're just overcome with work and your responsibilities. So at that point, you don't have the time and energy to think about your family.
Of all these things.
It's the journey that's the hardest, where you've just left your home and you're going to the ship. It may be just a day or two, but during that time...
You mean the transit time from home to the next port of, where you embark on the ship?
Yes, that's what I mean.
This time you mean.
Yes.
It's very difficult.
Right.
You leave your home You go to the airport, you fly out to the next port where you are going to embark on your ship. That's a difficult time.
That is the most.
But once you sign on, you have to swim there. Am I right?
Yeah, you have
It's
to swim. If you don't swim, then you're going to sink. So
yeah, so that's the situation. Yeah, and that's how the spirit is kept elated. Am I right?
Right.
Tell me something. After all this thing, are you happy with the profession that you chose, and what are your plans for the next 10 years or so? You have to answer both my questions.
Right. I'm quite content with the profession. At the end of the day, a lot of people are still looking for jobs, and I'm quite grateful that I have a job, and it's a job where I don't have to worry about the bills. I'm just living a regular life, but it's such a life that as long as I don't go overboard with anything, my needs are met. There is enough food, there's a roof over my head, and I'm grateful for that when so many people in the world are fighting for this every day. So I'm quite content. And as for my plans for the next 10 years, my next immediate step is to get my next promotion, which I'm working towards, to become the master of a ship. After that, I would like to study some more and get a degree, so I have more opportunities to move ashore. And that's on the cards, but I'll make that decision after my first step of getting my promotion and getting some experience
as the master.
Right.
I think, but the preferences now are, I think, changing, right? Once you become a master, you sail for, say, about 8 to 10 years. And then, as you said, you upgrade your qualifications by another degree, and maybe you take over shore jobs, which is less stressful. Is it the trend now in the maritime sector? Because the age of the captains is reducing more and more, am I right?
Yes.
At a very early age, you get onto a master's position, and then you sail for a few years.
Right, that is true.
Is it so? Because that's what we see.
Right, because after sailing for a while, by the time you're a master or a chief engineer, which are the top positions in the shipping industry, on the ship, by that time most people are married, they have children, and they don't want to continue spending time away from their children, extended periods of time.
Okay.
And I think that is the main consideration for people choosing to move ashore, where you don't want to sail and not see your kids grow up. You don't want to miss out.
Don't want to miss out on that.
Exactly.
Good. Tell us, Renshaw, is it true that the international maritime safety laws and laws to do with ocean pollution, and laws with shipping are constantly changing, are becoming more strict, and there is no scope for any leniency? In this situation, how do you look at the future?
The laws
and where is the role comes in over here?
The laws keep changing. There is, it's always every year, every month, there's something or the other coming up, and you have to deal with the laws at different levels. There are laws that apply to all ships. There are laws that apply to ships that belong to a single country. There are laws that apply to a ship when you go to that country.
Yes.
And this is very dynamic, so you have to keep yourself abreast of what's happening. And as far as enforcing it is concerned, we on the ship are there. We are the first people to enforce. And people can make laws, but the execution and sticking to it and making sure everything is complied with lies with us. And the violation of these laws, especially pollution laws, carry criminal liabilities.
Yes.
There are fines, and you can be imprisoned for knowingly violating these laws.
Okay.
So it's not something to be taken lightly. Okay. And in no court can you say, I wasn't aware. That is not going to stand.
Ignorance is not an excuse.
No, it is not.
Not an excuse.
Because this is a professional field, we have to know the laws and we have to follow them.
So it is a very challenging profession.
And
you're on your toes while on board with operations. At the same time, you have to upgrade your knowledge about all the laws of the sea and the oceans
Right.
that every country is introducing.
Right. So in addition to just doing your job, you also have to keep learning at the same time.
Continuous process.
It's very continuous,
Continuous.
and you can't stop, because once the wheel has stopped moving, to get it to roll again takes a lot of effort. So you have to be on your toes the entire time.
Renshaw, you are young and you have been sailing for quite some time now. Have you felt that urge that, you're missing the Goan cuisine and the Goan food while you're sailing for long spells of time? Has this thought anytime come to you?
Every morning when I wake up for breakfast, that thought comes to me.
Okay.
Because on the ship, you can have different people from different places. So the cuisine has to be something that fits everybody, that everyone can eat. And of course, there are some ships which have only Indians, so the food will be Indian. But Indian food is it's a very vague term, because what is Indian food? The food is different in every state.
Right.
So the food that I eat at home is not the food that I'd get on the ship. And something that everybody looks forward to is good food, whether we are at home or we are on the ship. And when you know that you're missing the food you grew up with, because the food that you ate when you grew up, that's always the best tasting food, wherever you may be in the world.
Correct.
So I think about it every single day.
So this is one thing that, you are always constantly thinking about.
Yes.
Goan food.
Right.
And you're missing it over there.
Absolutely.
You may have the best of the Indian food, if the chef is Indian and things like that. But nothing like Goan food.
No, because
if given a choice, you would have it every day.
No, I would, most days at least.
Most days at least. Tell us something. What are the prospects in international shipping for our young Goans who wish to make a maritime career?
I think the prospects are quite good. The chances of it are the same with every career. You have to answer certain exams. You have to meet certain criteria, and if you meet those things, the prospects are good. You can get in. You can do well for yourself. It's a matter of knowing. So if you know that I want to do this, then stay focused. Stay on the right track. For example, you cannot choose the commerce stream, graduate, and then think, okay, now I want to get on to the ship, because that would mean you go back and study everything again. Right. So if you're set in the right direction, I think it's quite a good option for people.
So youngsters who want to choose a shipping career, especially the deck side, they got to go into science, the science stream, and then proceed further and choose the option. Am I right?
Yes, you have to have a background in science.
With maths?
With maths,
physics?
yes, with maths
Okay.
and physics. And if you have that, that's your first step done. And then you can take the next steps.
Or the other side is the engineering side. Am I right? Engine room.
That's right.
That's
and
completely engineering field where you can.
It's an engineering field, and again, the foundation is science.
Foundation is science.
Science.
So you're saying the prospects are bright.
The prospects are bright once you get in. So you have to make sure that you're doing all that you can to get in, because competition is there. There are a lot of people doing it. There is no shortage of people. So you cannot take it easy and think, I'll just walk my way into this career.
Right.
Right. You have to work towards it. And once you do that, I think it's quite a good option for people.
Okay. What would be your advice, especially for our youth and youngsters who actually have a dream to make the career on the high seas and, sail the oceans?
Right. Since we have just spoken about, the educational requirements,
Yes.
I'll talk about the mental requirements.
Okay.
Because a lot of people have misconceptions about this career. We hear stories of people having fun. It's just party all day, visiting different places. And these are stories that are exaggerated and from a different era altogether.
A generation ago, maybe.
Right, a generation or
two generations ago.
Exactly.
Things are not the same any longer.
It's not.
It's evolving and changing.
It's evolving and changing, and you have to. This should be an informed decision. You cannot get on the ship begin your career and then you realize, oh, I'm not fit for this because I can't stand to be away from my family for so long, or every weekend I would like to go for a walk in the park or go to the beach, because all this is not possible. But you have people who are not aware of this because they just joined based on what they heard from someone, or we have many people posting videos on social media platforms just for views, where they talk about, oh, the salary is like this and I got to visit this place and I got to do this, and look at my job, I'm just traveling, and they don't talk about what's happening behind the scenes. And we don't want people being misled. This is a career choice not to be taken lightly, because the costs are very high on your lifestyle. Your social life is taken away. You miss all the important moments of life, and it is like living in a floating prison, because during that time you're on the ship, you're lucky if you get to go out. Most of the time you just be working every day, and the ship may move to different places, but you're just going to be on that ship.
So in other words, there are good prospects, there are economic benefits,
Right.
but at the same time everything is laced with a sacrifice.
Yes,
Am I right?
Absolutely.
There is a sacrifice which you have to do from your end.
There is a sacrifice, and people consider it to be a lucrative profession, but it's lucrative for a reason, because you're paying for it in so many other different ways besides just your work.
Yes.
So it is a good profession. There are many pros to it, but you should be aware of the cons as well, and it should be a deliberate decision, an informed one, where you know what you're choosing. And if that is still fine, because I think as every profession you have pros and cons, you cannot just have a profession that is perfect and has no drawbacks. So you should be okay with living with the drawbacks of this profession, and if you do that, I think it can be a very rewarding profession. There are many pros to it, and you can make a good career out of it.
Thank you, Renshaw. It was lovely talking to you. You have shared so many of your experiences, and you have given out so many advices to the youth, especially who are watching this program. And the very fact that you said you are so content with the career that you chose. And from our side, we wish you all the best, as you already have the master's license in your possession. May you very soon take over as the captain of the ship. Wish you all the best, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.
And so that was Chief Officer Renshaw de Souza. He's opened up his heart and he has spoken today at this chat show. He's given us such wonderful advice to all the youngsters who are looking forward to make shipping as their career. And he says there are a lot of prospects in this career, shipping career, but there are sacrifices too. Keep watching your favorite channel, the CCR TV channel. We shall bring you more of such wonderful stories. Thank you.